Time to sweep the Patreon board with one last Christmas movie. Matthew has asked me to review the Christmas movie for the Swan Prince. Wait, the pirate one? Seriously? Then why the hell am I still dressed like this? Honestly.
To me, I know who I am and I'll take my place. I'll be a princess tomorrow, but a pirate today.
So, I guess we're not looking at the Christmas movie that came before A Royal Family Tale. Instead, it's the one after, called Princess Tomorrow, Pirate Today. Weird title, but whatever. It came out in 2016 and looks to have more involvement from Streetlight Animation rather than Crest Animation Studios. And that's because Crest Animation Studios was no more. When that happened, Splash Entertainment took over for the Alpha and Omega sequels, while Streetlight did the same for Swan Princess. Not that it matters, since Richard Rich also founded Streetlight Animation. I have to imagine that this is some kind of money laundering scheme, because why else would they continue after closing the original studio? That's as much as I can speculate, so let's leave all that behind and get this over with. We open on some island where a little boy is spying on these strange reptilian creatures called bogs. They're foraging for food, specifically... Meat. Need meat. They're led by their leader named Nums, voiced by Kellen Goff, who some might know as Diavolo in JoJo Part 5 and Chisaki from My Hero Academia. He's trying to keep the others focused, despite the boy distracting them by making goat sounds.
Then what makes those sounds?
Ghosts of the meat things we've eaten before.
There are no more. Say it, Nums. No more.
Babas!
Babies! They're babies!
No, that's just what they call goats. They have different names for meat things, which they explain through song.
No more snorts or moo-moos!
No more meat, all extinct. Look what we've done. Used to eat fleshy trees, now we have none.
That's why you should learn how to raise animals so you don't run out of meat. Of course, another target for them are pink bellies, which I think is code for humans, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Cue credits and the CGI water effect they love so much, and cut to Odette and Derek, sidelining themselves from the plot. No joke, they have little to do in this story besides a few cameos. So what is even the point of calling this movie The Swan Princess then? Instead, we shift over to Elise, who's being watched by Queen Uberta and Lord Rogers. Rogers prepared this sailor boot camp, though the setup screams pirate, while Uberta has her own plans for the girl.
Princess boot camp?
I'm afraid Elise will have to miss your life on the poop deck lecture series.
The rivalry between these two never fails to amuse me, and all for someone who wasn't born a noble, which is nice. Uberta then calls out Rogers for how his camp has a lot of pirate motifs, and when he breaks into her room dressed like one, he doesn't help his case. At least these antics are actually funny, while other sequences can be really annoying. All this convinces Elise to go outside and swim with her animal buddies, but Uberta won't let her.
Sometimes she gives us royals a bad name.
You are not a royal, Jean-Bob. So while Elise does some swimming, we see the Scullions from the last movie. I guess they are working in the castle and are in charge of security. When Puffin wants to know what extra layer of security they provide, they try to show him. Well, at least they have a reason to keep those now. But then Puffin almost gets killed by the trap. Hilarious! Uberta commands him and the Scullions to retrieve Elise and keep her in her wing until the end of the Princess Boot Camp. Roger, Speed, and Jean-Bob overhear this and decide to stop them. As such, Rogers instructs Bridget to light these dummies out in the field to simulate an invasion. This distracts Puffin and the Scullions, which gives everyone the chance to break into Elise's room. Don't know why Puffin doesn't question all that camouflage, but whatever.
looks like from the future.
In fairness, that could just be Rogers inventing some pretty cool tech without looking out of place in a medieval setting. Still not great though, since this sort of electricity is impossible in such a time period. So through some shenanigans, Rogers, Speed, and Jean-Bob find Elise in her room. They give her her own camouflage gear, which is pink because girl, though it actually does its job when she's forced to hide in the pink flower garden in the yard.
Elise!
Morning yoga.
Yeah, if the earlier movies were any indication, this franchise is going to embrace these anachronisms. And as Elise makes it to the harbor, Uberta tries to catch up by riding this large pig from the castle stable. And well...
Of course I am!
Rogers! As your queen! Afraid you'll never escape!
What can I say? Sometimes she can be unbearable, but other times she's just hilarious. But before she can close in, her pig slides into her and sends her flying over the ship. All she can do is watch as Elise and friends leave.
I've pulled in huge whoppers like you before.
I guess it's dawning on her that she drove Elise away because of this princess boot camp, but she is kind of overreacting over this.
She'll be picked up by a pirate ship and learn pirate ways!
Well, maybe she'll become a Straw Hat Pirate, and it'll be alright. She orders Puffin and Captain Brody to go after Elise in their own Swan boat, and now they have to get up to speed on how to row this thing.
We all work together for Elise.
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, Rogers is ready to teach Elise how to be a sailor, while she dresses like a pirate. I don't know if Elise heard the argument between him and Uberta, but she still wants to dress like this either from taking those things too literally, or just because she's a kid.
I know who I am and I'll take my place. I'll be a princess tomorrow, but a pirate today.
It actually kind of works, because she wants to be a more modern or active princess, unlike Uberta. And since Odette and Derek are away to help their subjects personally, it's not crazy to think that their daughter is following their example. And the song is okay sounding about how Elise doesn't have to pick between pirate and princess and can be both, though the former will only last for this movie. Rogers is having second thoughts about this sailor boot camp and wants to return home. But that'll have to wait, so in the meantime, he teaches her some other things about the stars, including the North Star.
For centuries, sailors have kept their eye on her because she is constant, never moving, always true. Much like the love of your dear parents, Elise.
Aw, that's nice. Then a storm comes in, and turns out Rogers doesn't know much about sailor stuff at all. That and he's old, and just one guy. So it's up to Elise to make sure that everyone survives this, and she's not gonna let this storm scare her.
I'll give you back your color if you give me back mine.
Heh, that's kinda funny. The storm finally subsides, but the ship crashes into some rocks. The sails also get destroyed by lightning too, so abandon ship! Elise and Speed get separated from Rogers and Jean-Bob, who are swept away and end up on the same island where that boy was distracting those bogs, who find Rogers and now want to eat him. Rogers tries to stall for time by...
Why would you gobble me down raw when you could season and slow roast me to savory perfection?
Okay, quick. How would you cook you?
Quick nothing. You're going to learn to cook with passion or you'll be kicked out of my kitchen.
This is clearly stupid, but I kinda wanna see where this goes. Then the bogs find Jean-Bob, but they decide to worship him instead. Don't know why, but I guess we can see more back and forth between him and Rogers. The bogs then sense that someone else is also on the island, so they send out their scouts to check things out. They fly with these... leaf pads? But at least there's somewhat of a visual explanation to how they work. Turns out Elise and Speed are on the island after all. But then...
What did you say?
Elise, you must run.
Oh yeah, I forgot he became a ghost at the end of the previous movie, but what purpose does he serve? Not a whole lot for now, other than providing intel. The flying bogs show up and Elise and Speed flee until they are cornered, but then a horn sounds from the boy to distract the bogs, giving them the chance to jump into the water with him. This is where we learn that his name is Lucas, who takes them to his secret hideout. He's also here because he ran away from his parents to avoid living in an orphanage. But there's gotta be more to it. For now, it's obvious that he has abandonment issues. We even see his parents looking for him in another scene, and the father is clearly distressed about all this.
Maybe Lucas is better off. Who wants to be with a father who can't even provide for his own?
Don't say that. We are a family, and Lucas couldn't ask for a better father.
Seems like a basic misunderstanding. Then again, if a kid learned that they're heading to an orphanage, I could see them react this way. Lucas is willing to help Elise save her friends from the bogs. A little further away, Puffin and the Scullions get attacked by a giant squid. Thankfully, some quick thinking leads to Puffin taking some electric eels and shocking the thing, and then luring it away after. And then... yes, they are actually doing a Hell's Kitchen parody. It would have been fine if Rogers was just acting like Gordon Ramsay when he insults the crap out of the bogs, which he does a lot.
I've never seen a more pathetic group. You really think you can turn me into a quality meal?
You won't be around to be the judge of that?
Oh, out of my kitchen!
But did we really need a title card and side interviews? Will the kids even get the reference? Who are they even talking to? Speaking of kids, they work on a raft that will help them escape the bogs once they rescue Rogers and Jean Bob. But since the bogs have good hearing, Lucas teaches Elise how to use hand signs and lip read. I don't think this is actual sign language, honestly, but if it is, then that's a nice bit of detail. Lucas then claims that he likes living here as opposed to being with his parents, while Elise counters by telling him that not all parents are like his. She even uses Derek and Odette as examples, who in another scene are shown to receive word of Elise's disappearance, so they start looking for her. Lucas doesn't change his mind though, leading to a song about wanting to stay on the island and live the life he's made for himself.
Didn't they love me, or was it all a dream? I'm not really sure what I believe.
This series continues to raise topics that are worthwhile to discuss in front of a younger audience, like the relationship between parents and children. Too bad the brand of humor can get in the way of doing so. I would also like to remind you that this movie has the Swan Princess in its name, so why isn't Odette involved in any of this? Maybe that title has been passed along to Elise, but we never saw her turn into a swan, and it's not like Derek and Odette are actual king and queen yet. I also expected more pirate stuff given the title, and turns out that's a big lie too. Scully reports that the bogs are getting impatient with Rogers, so now the kids have to rescue him before they roast him over a fire. Jean Bob finally tries to tell them not to eat him, but Nubs is like,
From now on, we no longer worship green thing.
don't know why you did to begin with. The kids plan to have Speed lure one of the bogs over so they could knock it out. Then have Elise pass herself off as that bog since it wore her pirate hat earlier.
We got meat, fleshy treats, gonna get some. We used to starve, now we carve, no
Hurry,
more
me
ho-hum.
hungry.
These bogs are not very bright. But then Puffin shows up while Elise is getting Jean Bob and Rogers out, so now the rescue plan is improvised. Our heroes escape from the bogs, with Elise using the leaf megaphone to send the bogs elsewhere. However, after separating from Lucas, they find that the raft got burned down because one of the bogs found it earlier. As the bogs begin to come in on them, Rogers apologizes to Elise for making her something that she isn't. When all is said and done, she's already everything she wanted to be. Scully tells Rogers to delay the bogs because something is about to happen, and sure enough, the Scullions show up to fight them. So it's blow darts against starfish ninja stars? Okay. Rogers and Elise make it to the boat, but Nums intercepts her with his leaf pad. So it's up to Lucas to hijack one of those things and save her. She manages to get back on the boat after a short chase scene, and Lucas gets his hands on a blow dart to use on Nums. Yeah, right in the ass. The Scullions also save Lucas, and as for the bogs, well, Nums discovered that fish is meat, so no need to eat anyone else. Once our heroes make it back to the kingdom, Lucas runs off because he still wants to be alone. Now Elise has to go after him and convince him otherwise. Since the conflict against the bogs is resolved, this is the part of the movie that drags out a bit. Elise tries to find where Lucas is hiding, while Scully drops in on Odette and Derek to tell them what happened. Lucas's parents are also nearby. Scully whispers stuff to them, so they can all converge onto this one spot. Lucas overhears his parents talking to Derek and Odette about themselves and how much they actually care for their son.
People are slow to give my husband a chance, but he can do anything.
So, we thought it best that he go to an orphanage. But to him, he must have thought we didn't love him.
Mom? Father?
And I guess this is tied to the North Star because it shows up when everyone gets together. Now we can finally end the movie. Well, this was even more unnecessary than the previous film, but it still had its moments. I continue to like Derek and Odette as proactive royals who help the people of their kingdom, even if they had little to do with the story. The Uberta and Rogers rivalry is also fun to watch at times, and Lucas's situation has the potential for a good story. But why on earth is this called Princess Tomorrow, Pirate Today? All the pirate-y stuff was jammed into the first half, and even if you think it's a title about doing two things at once, you'd think there would actually be pirate stuff involved. The cover teases this part of the story, but like with Odette's appearance there, it is an utter lie. At best, this feels like a plot for a TV series rather than a direct-to-DVD film, which is a shame since older Swan Princess movies had stories that had higher stakes than this. The bogs in this movie are a step down from the Scullions. At least Mangler was forced to work for an evil power and was misled by a false prophecy. Nums was just some hungry asshole. Not very exciting. So I find this to be an even weaker film than even Escape from Castle Mountain. It's not offensively bad, and it's not even that boring, but it is proof of the franchise overstaying its welcome. Okay, one more request to do, and before taking a short break until February. So, what is the last thing I have to review? Well, might as well give it a shot.
When you're feeling lost and out of place,